Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. I've been waiting for this moment for what feels like 10 years. This regular season was a drag. We finally get to the juiciest part of the season. It'll be at home Wednesday night against the Miami Heat for a chance to face the New York Knicks in the first round, and I'm stoked. I can't wait! I can't wait. Now, I am nervous about Joel Embiid's status, because there's no way that I'm ever going to believe the Sixers in regards to any sort of health updates and injury updates, especially when it's Joel Embiid. I don't want to hear for one damn second that the Brooklyn Nets are such a beatable bunch that it made sense to sit Embiid. No way did it make sense at all. They said they were being precautionary. Well, then I will counter with, what are you being precautionary about? We all watched the game against Orlando. We saw him land on his knee. We watched him hobble his way back to the locker room. And even though he returned, for him to not play in the final game with the chance to maybe escape the play-in tournament, there's something there. Now, he's going to be on the floor Wednesday, okay? This won't hold him back from being on the floor, but are you getting maybe a 70% Joel Embiid instead of an 85% Joel Embiid? He'll never be 100%, but prior to the Orlando game, if you thought maybe he was at 85, factoring in health and factoring in conditioning and just comfort level, now it might be 70. Now it might be 75. I still believe that the Sixers should have enough to go against Miami Heat, but the Heat culture normally is in a different tier this time of the year, and I give Nick Nurse the advantage against every single coach in the NBA except for Eric Spoelstra. So if they turn on the Jets and become the playoff Jimmy, the playoff Miami squad, then because if you lose on Wednesday and then you face the winner of the following play-in squads, guess what? You're seeing the Boston Celtics in round one if you win the second game, which would be a very scary first-round matchup. I don't want to deal with them at all. Give me the Knicks. Give me Jalen Brunson. Give me DiVincenzo. That'll be a fun one. I think they're a fun little squad. I believe, as great as Jalen Brunson has been, that Joel Embiid is still a better player than him. And when you have the best player on the floor in the series, more times than not, you are coming out victorious. And poor Doc Rivers, huh? The guy's a damn loser. Of course, he hurts the Sixers once again. He just doesn't know how to succeed for this franchise no matter what. Was it too much to ask to not land in a three-way tie between Orlando, Indiana, and us? Like, come on! A three-way damn tie. And then he had to deal with the tiebreakers and the division and this and that. Whatever. It is what it is. Because you lost Joel Embiid for so long, you sort of got backed into a corner. And this is reality of it. But just as much as we are trying to run away from the Celtics, and if you put your hand up and pretend like you're not, well, then you're just asinine. I won't lie. I don't want to see the Celtics at all. If there was a world where you don't face them in the first two rounds, someone knocks off Boston in the second round, so then the Eastern Conference Finals, if we finally get over the hump, happens to be a team that doesn't have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, then sign me the hell up for it. I want to escape them any way humanly possible. And the reason why I bring that up is the way I feel about the Celtics, I do believe that there are teams out there that did not want to face the Sixers early on. I mean, outside of the Celtics, the biggest team next, I think, would be the Sixers because of Joel. Maybe the New York Knicks are right up there as an overall team, but I think the Sixers have the scarier overall player. The Knicks maybe because, and they dealt with some injuries too throughout the season, and Julius Randle, who has held them back in years past, very toxic relationship with the Knicks fans as it is. I don't know if it's as much of an impact Shaq not having that body because they figured it out as a team, and Jalen Brunson really stepped up and became a star. But I think maybe the Knicks as an overall team has gelled longer, so there is respect in that regard. But Joel is Joel, and he can give you 70, even though Brunson has put up 30, plus 40, plus, he's no joke. He can score at will. Joel Embiid is still the most skilled player in all of the league. And I've watched teams look at that second seed, look at some other seeds, and I don't want to see the Sixers. No way, I don't want to see the Sixers at all. So just note, when you're looking for some positivity, for some optimism with this team, just know that there are others that are way above them in the standings that want nothing to do with you the way we want nothing to do with the Celtics. I do think there's value in that. And one of the big reasons why I'm excited as hell is because of Tyrese Maxey. This dude is going to give us something that James Harden never did. And while James Harden was solid passing the basketball and getting his team going and, was one extreme compared to the other, meaning when he goes 1 for 15 from the field and the whole team got the life sucked out of him because that guy was a clown and a fraud. Well, okay, I don't think Tyrese Maxey has that level of bringing the rest of the team down. James Harden, when he went into that lackadaisical mode, and the thing is, Harden can also give you 40. We saw that. He can give you 40 and be insane and win a game for you. And then he could also be so damn inefficient and so brutal and unwilling to compete and turning the ball over at half court and then being lazy and not willing to fight his ass off to get back to try and block somebody at the backboard or make any sort of impact after he made a mistake. And that drains your team out because, come on, we're getting this version of James. The moment you get 6 or 7 minutes into an action, into a game, you could tell if you're on the bench, all right, well, it's one of those nights for James Harden. You won't have that out of Maxey. This kid is just an energizer bunny, and he might shoot 1 for 12 or something like that. He might have a bad game. I don't know if it'll exactly be 1 for 12 or something so brutally inefficient, and then he'd probably go utilize his speed, attack the rim, get some easy buckets, easy layups. But my point is, even if he's having an off night shooting, I don't think it takes away from the morale of the team as a primary ball handler. And I think he learned a ton on how to operate in fourth quarters without Embiid on the floor. And with Embiid on the floor, obviously everything's going to open up because I'd imagine whoever's on the other sidelines are saying, yeah, anybody but Joel Embiid can beat us. So if he's getting the ball in the post, make sure you send pressure. Hey, we can maybe switch some things up and apply a second guy coming to double team from the baseline. We can go over the top. There's so many different things to do to try and force the ball out of his hands. So if he was able to cook in the fourth without Embiid and the emphasis being on Embiid, it's only going to get that much easier, and there's going to be that much more space for you because everyone's going to be afraid of the big man maybe showing off his Akeem Olajuwon footwork. And keep in mind, he can also pass the ball beautifully too. It wasn't too long ago that we watched him at around the elbow back his way, play bully ball, and the second he saw something wide open in the far corner, he zips it beautifully like he's Brett Favre in his prime right into the breadbasket of Kelly Oubre, and it's a catch-and-shoot 3. And Oubre's been on fire. There's no doubt about it that we need him to be excellent. But look, I'm feeling good about this team. I'm feeling good about this team. There's no reason not to. I say this all the time when I try and preach optimism. And am I going to tell you that their chances of winning a championship is insanely high? It's probably higher than you would like to admit if you're one of those wake me up when they get out of the second round people. But no, they're not in the position of the Boston Celtics. They're not in the position of what Steph Curry was with Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant, where you knew you could write the Golden State Warriors into the NBA Finals and they were going to be the team to take down. No, by no means is it that, but it's definitely solid. Like, who scares you outside of Boston? The Knicks could be a fun matchup. And that could be a series that goes 6 or 7. I'm not going to pretend like it couldn't. Sure, it could, yeah. But I could see the Sixers winning that series. Orlando is a nobody. Indiana's a nobody. Cleveland's a nobody. And I have to say the Milwaukee Bucks apparently are nobodies right now too, because since they made the switch for Doc Rivers, they've been crap. And I don't know the update of Giannis, and it's not as if Damian Lillard is going to break you down and beat you single-handedly. Doc Rivers had destroyed the personality of that bunch. They have lost it. For some reason, he was openly admitting, I have no idea what this organization's doing. I have no idea why I'm even hired. I don't know why they fired the previous coach. I don't understand why they hired me before a really tough West Coast swing. They probably should have waited. If I'm a player in the room and I hear that after all of previous players have been pretty vocal about Doc, and Paul George has been pretty vocal about the pin downs and his usage, and I just think the last 2 or 3 years of Doc Rivers' career, there's been reasonable blame towards him. So the fire that he brings, once you see trends that you realize, hey, a lot of these NBA pros that have played for Doc and been around Doc, they've been expressing how there's some issues, and you're starting to see those issues very early. Doc Rivers is worried about how the organization and the people who travel with the team, with the the bus people on the road. He was getting angry with the bus people, and maybe that played a role into why they were losing. I'm sorry, what, Doc? If I'm on the team and I hear my coach starting to freak the hell out about a bus driver and the way we're getting to the arena and how we're not a top-tier organization. Shut up. We got to win damn baseball game or basketball games. Sorry. We got to win basketball games. We can't be wasting our time with some of this nonchalant bullshit off to the side. All right, so what? It took us an extra 10 minutes. I don't even know what it was, but I'm just saying. So what? It took me 10 extra minutes to get down to the pregame shoot-around. All right, shut the hell up, get yourself prepared, and let's go win a basketball game. That guy's going to hold the Milwaukee Bucks back on top of maybe their current health status. It would have been fun to see the Milwaukee Bucks in round one, because I think it could be absolutely in the favor of the Sixers, and seeing what a 7-game series could be like with Giannis and Joel, if they were both really healthy, would be electric and super fun, because not many guys can defend Giannis, but I do think over some of the regular season games that we've seen that Joel Embiid has been a force there. And one thing that I really like, if we're going to talk about head coaches here, is Nick Nurse and his ability to get unorthodox, right? Doc Rivers had a plan, and his plan got your team to have an MVP and a league-leading scorer in Embiid operating from the elbow, and James Harden leading the league in assist, and that brought you a tremendous amount of good stuff. It just did. Now, it had a ceiling, though, and when things went wrong, Doc Rivers says, this is what we do. This is how we play. This is what got us the league-leading scorer and the league-leading assist man. So we're going to continue to throw it out there, even if there was already an adjustment made by the other coach, by the opposing coach, and you don't counter their counter. He just sticks to his guns and say, well, it worked for the 82 regular season games. Yeah, that's whoop-de-damn-do great, Doc. But you're forgetting that this time of the year, you need to be more creative. So if Tobias Harris is struggling and he is sucking the life out of you, would I be stunned to see Paul Reed next to Embiid? Nope. Would I be stunned to see Nick Batum again next to Joel Embiid and you put him in against whatever opponent you're matched up against? Nope. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some unorthodox stuff and it's not your traditional lineups and your rotations are a little bit out of the ordinary, because, well, we have to do something different to try and throw a little bit of a spark, a little bit of something to get us out of a funk. If we lost because one of our lineups was minus 10 on the floor together and Embiid was off the floor, we got to switch things up. And if that happens to do something that we haven't done yet this year, or something that we're kind of keeping in our holster for whenever these moments do start to get more insane and more specific and more with the bright lights shining on you, then that's what Nick Nurse has been waiting to push this button for right now, this moment against the Heat, with the chance to solidify yourself into the playoffs without having to play that second game and line yourself up to the Boston Celtics. So I really think if it comes down to Tobias Harris needing to play 18 minutes instead of 37 minutes, okay, fine, and I'll split up those four, I'm saying as in the power forward, even though it's positionless basketball these days. But if you're trying to get something else in there, and whether it's a small ball lineup, whether it's going extra big and you have the Twin Towers type, which we watched him do that against Embiid with Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka the year the Toronto Raptors were able to accomplish their goal. They went with the Twin Tower look, and the Sixers were rocked by it with no answers whatsoever. We're going to see Nick Nurse and his ability to do that to another team. It could be Eric Spoelstra. Who knows? Maybe he ends up destroying Eric Spoelstra with matchup decisions. It's very hard to do, all right? And especially in a one-game sample size, it's not as if we're talking about 7 games and you can play this chess match. It's about one night. So this could be one night where, of course, Miami draws up a bunch of play. Would you be surprised if at any point we're talking about a 5 or 6 minute stretch where the Sixers can't figure out a zone, right? Because I bet you Eric Spoelstra, but if we're looking at 7 games, you have time to adjust. Hey, last time they threw this zone at us, and last time they did this, last time they did that. You don't have a last time. This is it. This is it. You got one crack at it against Miami. So I'm sure Eric Spoelstra is going to have everything properly ready to rock, but so is Nick Nurse, and that is a top-tier NBA coaching battle that I am really excited to see. Now, speaking of Eric Spoelstra, let's take a listen to what he had to say about the matchup with the Sixers. Knowing their opponent, this was Spo.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It'll be a great environment. Philly's been playing fantastic, recently. So we know what to expect up there, and that is what we say. It's for competitors only, and it should be a lot of fun.
We are playing extremely well right now, and it sucked that we were even in that position to begin with, but they did everything they possibly could ever since Embiid's return. You have no losses on your record, and even when you played shorthanded, you did your job. And Tyrese Maxey steps up in San Antonio. He brings you to double overtime, and Nick Nurse with the ability to draw up plays out of bounds, out of timeouts. Nick Batum with these insane level of passes. Those are added bonuses that you never had in years past. That's having a coaching advantage late into the season, and it's going to be fun to see with 7 seconds to go, and it's a one-possession game. You're down 1 point, or maybe you're up 1 point. Let's get a separator. You could go up 4 with an absurd play where you set a screen, it frees somebody up, the pass goes across the court into the corner, catch and shoot for Buddy Hield, and he lets it rain. Like, there's some guys here that really need to step up. Kelly Oubre has been pretty efficient lately, and if he's on one of his hot stretches where he can give you 4 or 5 threes in a game, well, then that takes pressure off of Tobias, where we don't need him to necessarily have 20-plus points on high-volume, effective shooting, but maybe we only need him to make 5 or 6 baskets on 7, 8 shots. Trust me, I want more, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying if you could take pressure off of Tobias, who can't hit a bunny to save his life, and then Kelly Oubre is giving you 25 points, well, then Tobias might only need to get you 15. Right? I mean, if it makes it simpler for Tobias, then right now, that's just what I need to do. And I'm not telling you every night I can rely on Kelly Oubre to do it. But as for right now, he is playing his best ball. So it's better than not. Like, if he was playing awful, if he was shooting poorly, if he looked like he didn't have any confidence right now, I would probably feel sour thinking about them going into the playoffs and needing him or Tobias Harris to be an insane killer. Well, Kelly Oubre has been flirting around with it on a night-to-night basis of being a very important complementary piece, and I think that will continue because, as I alluded to earlier, the emphasis on Joel Embiid is so strong that it opens up the possibilities for others. I don't have as much confidence in Buddy Hield. He just doesn't look right. And yes, he's a streaky shooter, so at any point, any moment in time, I wouldn't be surprised if he does cook. But because I'm not seeing him in the greatest form over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 games, it's hard for me to get there until I see it from him. But I know it just happens with the snap of your fingers. So this team going 8-0 to finish out the season, it's very important. It's very important, and I think they all believe in themselves. They all know that if it clicks, then they will be great. And there's not many teams that can stop them. And while I may have some questions about Boston, I don't think they look at it as we can't beat this team. They may think that team is stronger. They may think that team is more put together, and their win total and their record in the regular season and the lack of injuries compared to dealing with the Joel Embiid situation definitely puts them in a different category. But in regards to being able to compete with that team seriously and give them a run for their money, I think they believe deep down that they can, and they should feel that way. So I'm just excited to see their response, and I'm excited to know that Tyrese Maxey has learned a lot about how to play when Embiid has been off the floor. Let's take a listen. This is from 3 games ago. Tyrese Maxey in the locker room post-game talking about growing up, and trust me, I've been preaching this forever now. It's a grown man's league, and you have to learn how to win with the lights on in the playoffs, and not that regular season games automatically relate to postseason games, because it's a different sport this time of the year. But there's no doubt that the killer mindset and the attitude and the switch of Tyrese Maxey relates to all of the greats in the league now, and he has the DNA to explode in the playoffs, where there's people who might not know too much about him, and they're going to watch him go off for 45 in a game and win you a game on the road where he's cooking, the jumper's wet, and now you have to double him, right? And you can't double him and double Joel Embiid. So there's going to be some nights where he's either exploding to the rack and you're picking up a ton of fouls because you can't stay in front of him and you can't compete with that speed, or it's going to be where he has 5 threes and you can't let him keep grilling you. You throw the double. Now Embiid's going to the free throw line because there's a one-on-one matchup there, and he's licking his chops and he's knocking down all his free throws, and the rest is history. I can't wait to see Tyrese Maxey really develop without a James Harden blocking him and stopping him from taking this next elevation in his game. Here's Tyrese Maxey on what it was like to learn without Embiid on the floor.
I just told him, I got us, you know what I mean? It's a couple times. I think the last 2 times that we had close games in the fourth quarter against the Heat, and then today, it's man, I got us. I can, I think him being out was bad, of course, but it was a blessing in disguise. I think it kind of had me grow up a little bit and kind of grow into this role.
We need that. We need him to be in that role. You are only going to win if Tyrese Maxey can be absolutely on a different planet and be this stud weapon. You need help big time. As much as I mentioned Kelly Oubre being nice and Kyle Lowry, I haven't really touched on him yet, but he obviously has more left in the tank than any of us imagined. I just go back to what he looked like in Miami not too long ago when he was playing for the Heat, and it just did not look like he had much basketball left, and he's been awesome for you. You've never had that. You've never had campaign. You had Furkan Korkmaz. You had Shake Milton. I mean, these were the guys that you were relying on. That's garbage. If I'm just being honest with you, that's garbage. And I don't know where DeAnthony Melton is. He seems to be a long shot. It's so hard to even keep up with where he's at from a physical level. Every time he's back, he's not back, and then he's missing more games, and then he's unavailable. And now Nick Nurse is saying, yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be happening for Wednesday. So it's just been a brutal season for him. Are the Miami Heat even good? No, not necessarily. But they do find ways this time of the year to be a force, to be a juggernaut, to be a very hard out. Outside of Boston, is it fair to say that seeing the Knicks and seeing Miami are potentially 2 of the harder teams left? The New York Knicks, compared to the current state of the Milwaukee Bucks, is probably a tougher out. But because Giannis's ceiling when healthy and Dame's ceiling when healthy is better than anybody on the Knicks, and I'm not downplaying Jalen Brunson. He's going to be insane. He's going to put up numbers, and he's going to probably steal a game against you. And I could see him winning 2 games for the Knicks. I could see this going 6 or 7 games. By no way, shape, or form, by no means is this going to be a cakewalk for the Sixers. But I do demand you to win that series. No matter what we just went through, outside of the Boston Celtics Celtics, no matter who you're lined up against, you should win every series except for a Celtics series in the Eastern Conference. That's how strongly I feel about this playoff push. And I don't think that you should go with the mentality of, I won't believe in this team, or I don't care about this team until a second round is won. Stop. It's not like it's a 15-win basketball team and I'm putting and slapping the expectations on them to go win a championship. Embiid's one of the best players in the league, and it's not weird that the second he returns, this team doesn't lose games. And then even when he's back in action, but he has to sit a night because they're resting him or their precautionary stuff is in play, whatever, his presence and them knowing that he's going to be cool and all right for the playoffs is enough of a morale booster when they can go face the San Antonio Spurs and win an absurd game that goes to double overtime. And you scratch one out. That stuff matters. It really does. The morale, the belief, the idea and understanding of the ceiling, they know. They know just as much as I know that the time is still right now, regardless of the journey on how they got there. It doesn't matter that this one's different than in years past. It doesn't matter that he missed so much time with the injury and there's so many new pieces here and there's a head coach that never got to work through 82 games with the MVP of the league. That's all irrelevant because right now the basketball is going to be tipped up and tipped off, and they're going to be in a big-time intense battle, and there's no excuses. Now is the time, and they all know that. They understand that, and I believe that they will have the answers here. I do. I think that they have the answers here. All right? I believe in them. I believe in them, and I think that's the way you jump into this as a fan. They're not going up against the Golden State Warriors, all right? If it was an obvious situation where they didn't have the firepower to do it at all, then I wouldn't put the expectations on them. But I'm being realistic, I'm being honest, and I'm assessing the rest of the Eastern Conference. They're right there. They are right there. Outside of the Celtics, they're that next team. And then the Knicks, and then Milwaukee. The rest of them, what are they? Who are they? And I don't think that I'm just being biased because I like the Sixers and I'm rooting for the Sixers. If you want to convince me, it goes Celtics, Knicks, Sixers. Once again, just because the Knicks have this level of consistency with the team for a longer period of time, fine. But if Embiid came back sooner and instead of being 8-0, they were 15-2 in 17 games, would you feel differently about it? Because that's the impact of Embiid. That's what he's capable of doing. I'm not going to hurt the ceiling of this team just because instead of 15 games of Embiid late down the regular season stretch, they only had 8. I'm not allowing that to dictate anything. I'm just looking at maximizing everybody on the roster, and you look at each team, I got to give the nod to Embiid. So it's fascinating that we're here after all the drama, after all the pain and suffering. This is where we're at. It's not a horrendous spot to be in. It's not. I'm actually looking forward to the challenge. Let's take a listen to Jim Lynam, though. There's no one better than the coach. And he's talking about Nick Nurse and his ability in one of the pregame lives on NBC Sports Philadelphia, what Nick Nurse can do and what he can provide for this team as they look to get a big playoff run under their belt.
What I do really like is the way they've been able to react regardless of what the situation was. You know, they had Joel out, obviously, for a long stretch. I think it was 29 games. There was a period there when Joe was out that Maxey didn't play. And I think if you look overall at the level of play of this team, it was pretty good. And I think Nurse did really a masterful job of, like, preparing his team for whatever came down the pike. And what comes down the pike today could be, you know, something that you'd prefer you not have to do, namely play Miami. But I think they'll be mentally equipped to do it. It's a home game, and plus, if the absolute worst scenario does unfold, namely you lose to a Miami, you have another crack at the apple.
Now, I'm with Coach, man. I mean, you look at what he's able to do with his team. He just seems to... and it's rough when you're lacking such a big key piece. They did get blown out in some games, but that's just because they didn't have the personnel. They didn't have that firepower. When equipped and when he has everything in his holster, good luck. He's up there with Eric Spoelstra. He's right up there with Spo. And this team is going to be prepared. This team's going to have things that no one's going to be ready for, and that could be the difference in the game or not. It could be a 3-minute stretch of a lineup that it's like, whoa, all right, we're getting a little cute here. We're getting a little fancy here. We're getting a little out of the box here. With those 3 minutes of out of the box, that could be the difference of winning or losing those 3 minutes and setting you up for a nice ride in the final fourth quarter frame, and you're good to go. I can't wait. Possession by possession, insane level of intensity. Playoff basketball, there's nothing like it. It doesn't relate to the regular season at all, and it's my favorite time of the year, and I am excited. I think they're going to beat Miami. I do, and it's going to be awesome. All right, everybody. Love you guys to death. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you all on the next one.